Molly heard me making the video, so she had to come over and say hi. Look at that. Molly loves hanging out for the videos. She's right here down below. Okay? Nathan Cox, thanks for joining us around the home. Today we're going to talk about the rising costs of renting a home, okay? It's really gone up in the last year. Right now, it is January 2023, and I originally started making this video a few months ago, like back in September, October, and I didn't like the way it came out, okay? I went to the editing and I was like, no, I don't like the way this come out. I missed a few points. And I'm kind of glad I waited because I got some more information that makes this even more complete, okay? So a lot of people are very upset. There's a lot of emotions on this video. I understand it. So when you start making comments down below, I don't care if you guys have a discussion, but just keep it respectful, or I'm just deleting those comments straight out. You know, you can spend 10 minutes making a comment. I delete it in a half second. So just watch what you say. So obviously I already have some stuff written out on the board. We'll go to that in just a second. Now, when I got this information, I did some local surveys, online. I talked to some real estate agents. I got some other people out of state. I'm in Southwest Missouri now. This should apply pretty generally for the most of the United States and the housing issues we've had in the end of 2021, 22. Okay. So let's really just jump back here and let's discuss why your rent has gone up and was it justified? So I think we all know that the housing values have gone up drastically over the last year, right? And that's created because of the housing shortage and then supply chain shortages, building materials gone up in price, so new houses are a lot more expensive. Everything's just kind of supply and demand, and most of us expected, the house values to go up during all this crazy supply and demand, and then when it was done, just to drop back down. And first quarter of 2023, and it still hasn't done that. House values are still up, okay? So for those of you who got price rent increases, okay, your rent gone up in 2022, let me explain, where it came from and how legitimate it was. One of the big questions I asked when I was doing the survey was, is your home that you're in, is it still owned by the same owner that you've been in there for the last year or two, or did it switch hands, okay? That was huge. And with the increase of value of homes, if I owned a rental property, trust me, I would have been cashing out last year as well. Because, you have this rental property, it's a long-term investment, okay? And they can be exhausting from a landlord's point of view. And the whole thing is you get, you have it for 20 years or something like that, you pay off your mortgage, doing 20 and 30 years, and then you sell the house. And then that increase of value over all that time is what you get back, okay? That's your earnings that, you put towards retirement. And if houses can jump up, in value an additional 30, 40, sometimes 50%, you better believe that's time to cash out, okay? So a lot of the people I talked to, their owners cashed out and it's owned by a different management company or a different personal owner. One way or another, most of them did. And for those who changed hands, where they're now, having to send their rent check to somebody else, their rent went up on average 50%, okay? That's a lot, I know. And for a lot of those who budgeted and could barely make the rent and all the bills as inflation is going up and everything else costing more money, that was just a death sentence to their budget, okay? Put a lot of people out. And I'm sorry, but that's a legitimate change in price, unfortunately. For the same owner, most people's rent went up 13%, okay? Which still hurts them. It's not like 50%, but 13% up on average on the increase of rent, that still hurts the budget. Especially, so say if, that's like if you had a $800 a month rent, and now you're paying $900 a month. Where that extra $100 come from, okay? Maybe you're making a little bit more money in your job, but all your food and everything else is costing you more money, so that's taking that up anyway, so you don't have the money for the extra rent. It sucks, but that's also legitimate, I'm afraid, okay? I'll explain why it's legitimate. 13%, let's stick with the same owner, okay? You say, well, my rent went up, they charged me another $100 a month, and I didn't get new windows, a new door, I didn't get anything like this. First of all, that's a weird mentality to have, to think if your rent goes up that you deserve upgrades to the house that you're living in. I've been in helping with rentals and stuff for years, doing property management years ago, and there were plenty of people that just believe that they deserved, even if the rent didn't go up. They're like, hey, these are old windows and it's costing me money, my utilities. Well, you probably had a cheaper price because it's an old house. It's got old windows. That's why the rent was $600 instead of $700 for the newer house. Anyways, soapbox. Let's get off that. Prices went up, even if they had the same house, right? The owner didn't change. Their mortgage should have been a fixed rate mortgage. Let's just assume that. So the mortgage didn't go up. But you know what did go up? Materials on everything, okay? And the landlord has to figure in for that, okay? Let's say your water heater goes out. Let's say the roof needs repair. Let's say, I don't know, something else breaks on the house. Everything has gone up. Labor charges have gone up if they need to hire someone in. All the materials have gone up on average, still sitting at like 25% up from like before COVID lockdowns. So they have to figure in those expenses for the year. So they have to change for that. And even if they didn't change for that, this is why I'm glad I waited to make the video, because the house values have gone up so drastically. My property taxes went up $300 for my home this year. My insurance went up also. It was more like $250 for the year. Okay? So the landlord has to recoup his costs there, right? His expenses, I mean. He has to recoup his expenses. So that 13% increase, even if he had the same owner, that was justified. He's just trying to stay afloat. He's just trying to keep the same. And so those extra costs go on to the person buying the product or the service, just like everything else has gone up in price. Now, if you have the same owner and they increased 50%, now he is ripping you off, okay? I will say that for sure. If you have the same owner and he decided to increase by 50% for your rent, he is shady and he is greedy. And if you have that guy, I am sorry. Now, changed hands. If your owner sold out, decided to cash in, legitimate thing to do, and the new guy's charging you 50% more to stay in the house, or you're gonna have to get out, unfortunately, that's legitimate too. Let me explain why that's legitimate. In the last 13 years of owning my home, 14 years, my house value, especially over the last 2 years, has gone up 60%. Yeah. So when they sold that house to the new owner, they sold it for a higher price than they bought it for, okay? So the new owner has a much higher mortgage rate. Mortgage insurance, taxes is all based on the new price of the house. So, most likely your house, the original owner, has had it for probably at least 5 years, if not closer to 10. So if you have a new owner at 50% up, that's just the cost of the new house, the new value of the house. I'm sorry. It sucks, but that's legitimate. Now, for those of you who have bad landlords, I feel for you, okay? I've been there. We rented multiple houses before we bought one. And unfortunately to say, I think the majority of them really shafted me. They wouldn't fix things that they should have fixed, or they took like 6 months to do so, and charged me for ridiculous things that, knowing both sides of the coin, having my family own rental properties and helping other people rent properties, when we left, we actually left everything 100% clean. And I got charged once like $100 for having weeds in the flower garden. Yeah, I'm not kidding. And then I had another landlord basically keep my entire security deposit because the ceiling in the bathroom had like a water damage and a bubble in it. Okay, but that one there had a roof leak, and we reported that multiple times to him, and he came over trying to fix it himself. And how do we know that it was leaking? Well, when a bad storm came up and then they started leaking in the ceiling, and we noticed the ceiling being all wet, then we called them back. So of course the ceiling had water damage. He charged me $500 for that ceiling having water damage. Really? Right? So guys, I understand you have a bad landlord and it's frustrating, but most of the rent increases this last year were legitimate. And that's kind of freaky to say, but that's inflation and everything else out. We can get really crazy with explanations why. Anyways, I'm going to end it right here, cut it down. Guys, I have so many more videos here to teach you how to do stuff. Maybe you can save some money. Please share these videos so others can be helped out as well. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Check out my additional videos. You guys have a great one.